The wind sweeps across the cold Mongolian steppe, a sound older than history itself. In the 13th century, from this desolate landscape, a man rose who would change the face of the earth. His name was Genghis Khan. To some, he was a hero who united the tribes and brought order to chaos. To others, he was the embodiment of destruction. His empire would become the largest contiguous land empire in history, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. But behind the glory and legend lies a story of unimaginable fear. What his victories meant for those who lived through them, especially for the families of his enemies. Before the world feared his name, he was Temüjin, a boy left to die on the steppe. His father was poisoned by rivals, and his family cast out by their tribe. Temüjin, his mother Hoylun, and his siblings survived on roots, berries, and whatever they could hunt. It was a life stripped bare, and from that desolation came a mind shaped by survival and vengeance. His mother's words echoed through his life. "No one will save you. You must save yourself." Every betrayal, every hardship became fuel. He learned that loyalty was worth more than blood, and that fear could be a tool sharper than any sword. As he grew, Temüjin gathered those who had nothing, outcasts, fugitives, men abandoned by clan and kin. Together they forged a brotherhood stronger than any family. Through battle and blood oath, he united the Mongol tribes, a feat no man had accomplished before. In 1206, his warriors raised him high and called him Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. The tribes that once warred among themselves now moved as one, and once united, they turned outward, toward the world. The first great campaign fell upon the Western Xia, a wealthy kingdom that had grown complacent behind its walls. The Mongols struck with a ferocity that stunned their enemies. Their tactics were new: mobility, deception, discipline. They encircled cities like tightening nooses, cutting off escape, cutting off hope. When resistance broke, they razed the ground. When surrender came, they spared what they needed and destroyed the rest. The message was clear: submit and live, resist and die. Cities that defied them became warnings to others. Smoke and silence became the language of conquest. For Genghis Khan, victory was not measured by mercy, but by control. He understood the psychology of fear. Each destroyed city magnified his reputation. Each spared one served as proof of his generosity to the obedient. In this balance of terror and order lay the heart of his empire. The Mongols were not aimless raiders. They were engineers of submission. And when the walls fell, the fate of the defeated followed a grim pattern. Men of fighting age were executed. Skilled artisans were taken for the empire's use. Children were scattered among the tribes. And the women, wives, daughters, widows, became symbols of power, tokens of alliance, and victims of survival. In the medieval world, war never ended with the battle. For those left behind, conquest was a second kind of death. The Mongols, like most armies of their time, treated the captured as part of the spoils. The army was rewarded not with gold, but with shares of everything taken: livestock, weapons, and human beings. The distribution was systematized. To the victors went wealth and people. To the Khan went the right to choose first. Among the captives, noble women were often claimed to secure political loyalty or to cement new bonds between conqueror and conquered. What history remembers as empire building was, in reality, a reordering of human lives. The chronicles written by the victors recorded only strategy and victory. The voices of those who suffered were lost to the silence of time. Genghis Khan himself was pragmatic. His rule valued usefulness above birth. Many women taken into the Mongol court were not merely prizes. They became intermediaries, advisors, and mothers of future leaders. Some were given positions of honor, yet their lives began in devastation. For the Khan, alliances built through marriage and concubinage were tools of governance. His descendants would rule vast regions, bound together by bloodlines woven from countless conquered nations. In this way, conquest was not only territorial, it was genealogical. The Mongol lineage carried within it the echoes of every culture they subdued. As the Mongol Empire expanded into Central Asia, Persia, and beyond, resistance grew fiercer and the reprisals more terrible. Cities that rebelled after surrender were annihilated. Chroniclers from Khwarezm to Samarkand wrote of massacres so vast that the land itself seemed to mourn. For the survivors, submission was the only refuge. The conquerors imposed Mongol law, collected tribute, and integrated new peoples into their war machine. Yet even in victory, the cycle of fear continued. The wives and families of defeated leaders were scattered, their names erased or absorbed. Where once stood proud dynasties, only whispers remained. And still, amid this vast machinery of conquest, there were moments that revealed another side of the Khan. He forbade the selling of women into slavery among his own people. He granted protection to widows and orphans within Mongol ranks. His empire opened trade routes, encouraged diplomacy, and allowed religious freedom. These acts of governance contrasted sharply with the brutality of his wars. To his followers, he was a just ruler who valued loyalty over lineage. To his enemies, he was a storm that erased the old world. Both were true. The same man who destroyed cities also built laws that outlived him by centuries. The wives of his enemies, the captives of his campaigns, became silent witnesses to this paradox. Some found new status within Mongol society, adapting to survive. Others vanished into anonymity. In their fates lay the unspoken cost of empire, the human toll that never makes it into official records. The chronicles written by Persian, Chinese, and Arab historians describe the terror that followed Mongol armies, the dread that crept ahead of them, the desperate surrenders to avoid destruction. In that fear was the shadow of what Genghis Khan had done, and what he might yet do. By the time he turned his attention westward, no power dared underestimate him. The Khwarezm Empire, rich and proud, made the fatal mistake of defying him. When its governor executed Mongol envoys, Genghis Khan's rage became legend. His retaliation was absolute. City after city fell, their defenses shattered, their rulers captured or slain. The rivers ran with the debris of civilization. Yet even in vengeance, he acted with methodical precision. He spared artisans, scholars, and useful individuals, rebuilding his empire with their labor. To the Mongols, conquest was never chaos. It was reorganization through fear. As the campaign raged, the same grim patterns repeated. Families torn apart, wives of rulers brought before the conquerors. Some were treated as valuable hostages, others disappeared. The conqueror's chronicles frame these acts as diplomacy. Later, historians see them as domination. Between the two lies the truth of empire, the blending of survival, politics, and power. For those women, every day that followed conquest was a negotiation with fate. When Genghis Khan returned to Mongolia after years of warfare, he was already a legend. His armies had crushed kingdoms and humbled empires. Yet he remained restless. The world, in his mind, was unfinished. He saw himself not as a destroyer, but as a unifier of nations under one law. He spoke of bringing order to the world as the sky brings order to the seasons. In his final years, he sought peace through dominance, a peace that could exist only once all resistance was gone. Genghis Khan died in 1227 during his final campaign against the Western Sia. The cause of his death remains a mystery. Some say illness, others a fall from his horse. His burial place was never revealed. His tomb remains one of history's great secrets. Yet his legacy endured. His descendants continued the conquest, spreading Mongol power across Eurasia. They ruled from Beijing to Baghdad, blending cultures, faiths, and languages into a new world order. Trade routes flourished, science and art exchanged hands, and the echoes of the Mongol peace, the Pax Mongolica, reshaped the global map. But beneath the prosperity that followed, the ghosts of the conquered remained. The silence of those who had no voice, the wives, mothers, and daughters who bore the weight of empire, lingers in the margins of history. Their stories remind us that power, no matter how vast, is built upon human lives. For every empire that rises, countless lives are consumed by its making. Today, centuries later, Genghis Khan's image is divided between hero and monster. In Mongolia, he is revered as the father of the nation, a symbol of unity and strength. Across the lands he once conquered, his name still carries the memory of fire. His empire gave birth to global trade and diplomacy, but also to unimaginable suffering. The paradox endures. The man who connected the world also tore it apart. Historians continue to debate his legacy. Was he a visionary who brought civilization to the steppe, or a warlord who cloaked destruction in the language of destiny? The truth, as always, lies between. Genghis Khan understood human nature, its fear, ambition, and hunger for survival. He wielded those instincts as weapons. He built loyalty by sharing victory, and ruled by inspiring awe and terror in equal measure. His empire outlasted him because it was built not just on conquest but on structure, a legal code, a merit-based system, and the relentless belief that obedience was peace. What he did to his enemies' families, and especially their wives, remains a shadowed chapter of that story. It is not just a tale of cruelty, it is a portrait of how absolute power transforms human relationships into instruments of control. For Genghis Khan, every act served a purpose, political, strategic, or symbolic. His empire was a machine, and every captured life was a cog within it. Some gained new power, most were lost to history. But their silent endurance shaped the very bloodlines that continued to rule long after his death. As the camera drifts once more across the steppe, the wind whispers through the grass. The empire is gone, its cities turned to dust, but the memory remains. Genghis Khan's name is carved into mountains, written into DNA, and echoed in the stories of nations that still feel his touch. He remains both legend and warning, a man who believed the world could be ordered through conquest, and who showed humanity both the heights of ambition and the depths of its cost. In the end, the terror of Genghis Khan is not only in what he did, but in how much of the world he changed. His empire reshaped civilization, his laws outlived him, and his shadow stretches across history. Yet for the countless lives caught in the path of his armies, the mothers, the daughters, the wives, his name was not destiny. It was the sound of the storm, and long after that storm passed, its echoes still whisper through time.